Are grace and works mutually exclusive? Two crucial passages, Romans chapter 4, verse 4, and Romans chapter 11, verse 6. Understanding these two passages is essential in addressing the question, are grace and works mutually exclusive? Romans chapter 4, verse 4, justification by faith and Abraham's example. Paul states, "Now to him that worketh, the reward is not reckoned for righteousness." This passage comes within Paul's discussion on Abraham's justification. Abraham was deemed righteous because he believed God. James later explains that this belief was an active, obedient faith. Paul's focus, however, is different from that of James. He emphasizes that Abraham was justified outside the system of Judaism. Abraham lived before the establishment of Israel and the giving of the law of Moses. Paul highlights that Abraham was counted as righteous while still uncircumcised, proving that righteousness is not dependent on the Mosaic law. Paul's argument is clear. Justification is not through the law of Moses. Abraham was justified by faith long before Judaism existed. Abraham's faith was an active faith, one that trusted God's promises and obeyed his commands. Paul's use of works in Romans chapter 4 does not refer to obedience in general, but to the works of the Mosaic law, which was not in effect during Abraham's time. Abraham's justification was not through legal perfection, but through faith that trusted and obeyed God. Romans chapter 11, verse 6. Salvation by grace, not by the law of Moses. Paul states, "But if it is by grace, it is no more of works. Otherwise, grace is no more grace." This passage falls within Paul's discussion of Israel's rejection and the inclusion of the Gentiles in God's redemptive plan. Paul makes the following points. First, God had not rejected his people entirely. There was still a faithful remnant. Second, this remnant was chosen according to the election of grace. And third, if salvation is by grace, it cannot be based on the law of Moses. Paul draws an analogy to Elijah's time when only 7,000 Israelites remained faithful. Similarly, in Paul's day, a remnant of Jews was coming to Christ, not through adherence to the Mosaic law, but through grace. Key insights from Romans 11 include, the law of Moses could not save, it only condemned those who failed to keep it perfectly. Salvation under the Old Testament was always based on faith in God's promise, not on perfect law-keeping. The remnant in Paul's day was receiving grace by embracing Christ, not by remaining in Judaism. Conclusion. Grace and works in context. Paul does not teach that faith and obedience are opposed to grace. Instead, he clarifies that justification does not come through the works of the Mosaic law, but through faith in Christ. Works in these passages refers specifically to the law of Moses, not to obedience in general. Just as Abraham's faith was counted as righteousness when he trusted and obeyed God, so too is our faith counted as righteousness when we trust and obey Christ today. Thus, Romans chapter 4, verse 4 and chapter 11, verse 6 confirm that salvation is by grace, through faith, and not through the legalistic works of the old law. However, this does not negate the necessity of obedient faith in Christ.